some special customers key cards that allows them to go in and count their diamonds and look at their diamonds at very strange hours. So this guy, Carlos Hector Flamenbaum, either stole one of the cards or somehow managed to get one of the cards, perhaps validly, and one day he goes in, or one night he goes in, accesses the vault, and walked out with over £14 million worth of diamonds. I think that's at the time I think was nearly £20 million worth of diamonds, just from being really nice and social engineering them. So this is what the spokesman for the Diamond High Council in Antwerp said about this guy. He used no violence. He used one weapon, his charm, to gain confidence. He brought chocolates for the personnel. He was a nice guy. He charmed them. So you can get a really long way with social engineering. To give you an example of social engineering that happened in the UK, a little closer to me, a gang of online bank robbers called up a bank in the UK. They'd identified a victim who was away on holidays. I don't know, maybe they'd read it on his Facebook or something that this guy was away on holidays. So they called up the bank, pretending to be this guy, and pretending that they'd lost their memory to find out where this guy held his mortgage. So they rang up the mortgage providers and they managed to transfer £60,000 from this guy's mortgage reserve account into his current account. The next step was to ring up the current account bank and say, "Hey, I've lost my chip and PIN card. Don't know where it is. Please can you send me a new one? Oh, and by the way, please can you send me a PIN as well, because I've forgotten that because I've lost my memory." So they sent him out a new chip and PIN card. Because the guy was away on holidays, it was held by the local post office. So this gang of robbers are thought to have paid a middle-aged white drug user to go into the local post office and collect the chip and PIN card and the PIN. And do you know what this middle-aged white drug user used for ID to pick up the card and the PIN? He used a fake utility bill and a Tesco club card. So he picks up the card and withdraws the £60,000, and the victim gets back from his holidays and realises he's been done. One of my favourite examples of social engineering concerns a little 10-year-old kid, probably 11 now, over in the States. And this guy decided he didn't like his new stepdad, so as many of us try, he ran away from home. Now, when I was a kid, I used to run away from home the whole time. I would get on my bike, cycle like 3 miles down the road and hide under a tree, then get hungry around tea time and go back, but sulk. But this guy decides to be a little more extravagant. First of all, he tries stealing a car, which he crashes. But 2 days later, he realised this doesn't work. I'm going to try something new. So he goes along to the airport, and he hears a gate closing. So he runs up to the air hostess and he says, "That's me." They're doing the call for the last customer, and he says, that's me, I'm the last passenger, I should be on that flight." And I said, "Oh kid, where's your mommy? Where are your parents?" And he says, "My mom's already through, she's going to kill me if I don't make this flight." So this little 10-year-old kid gets on the flight and got from, I think, Seattle to Texas, and did a stopover in Phoenix before he got caught and brought home. So I'm really trying to follow this guy and see what he becomes when he's older, because if someone tells him about social engineering and IT security, I think he'll go a long way. So I think social engineering is clearly a problem, and I think we've been reading more and more about it in the last couple of years. One of the things you can do to help prevent social engineering is perform a social engineering test. Keeps people like me employed. And the idea behind performing a social engineering test is you test the level of both some physical controls and security awareness amongst your staff. It's really good for giving your staff practice at identifying the kinds of techniques that social engineers would use in a malicious attack. And like any pen test, it can provide you with really good recommendations on how to improve things. Now, when I get asked to do a social engineering test, it's often combined with a technical pen test in an all-out attack. So it can be really fun to do when you've got permission to do absolutely anything. So if you've decided to do a social engineering test, what do you actually do? What are the stages of a social engineering attack? So I like to break it down into 6 different stages. First of all, identify who your target is. Now this will obviously be somebody who has commissioned you to do a social engineering test and with whom you have a contract to do a social engineering test. So once you've decided who you're going to target, you have to perform your reconnaissance and find out as much information about your target as you can in the time you have allowed to do the test. Based on the information that you've found, you need to create your scenario or your pretext, the role that you're going to use to elicit information from people or to gain physical access to a building. You need to use your scenario and go in for the attack. And then you need to get out again, which is often easier said than done, actually. You could be in some really tricky situations in a building where you've somehow managed to get in there, but you cannot get out there. You can't get out of there again. So I've ended up in some really weird situations just trying to chat with people in the lift so that I can walk out with them. Or in one case, I went into a big stadium and I couldn't get out again, so I had to join a catering tour of all these guys who were learning how to cook chips. So I had to pretend I was interested in coming in and cooking chips that weekend. I learned a lot because really I'm quite a crap cook, so I learned a little bit about what temperatures you need to put things at, and at the end I shook everybody's hand and said, yeah, sure, I'll be there to help you with your catering at the weekend. So it can be tricky getting out again. And the final stage of a social engineering test is writing your report, which is really boring after you've had all the fun of doing a social engineering test. Having to write that down can be really dull, but actually you end up with a really good report, particularly if you've taken lots of photos along the way. Clients love the reports. But before you start anything, one of the most important things is to get your get out of jail free card. In other words, a letter of indemnity that gets you off the hook should you be caught. The get out of jail free card should contain details like the name of the person who commissioned the social engineering test in the first place, along with an internal telephone number for this person, so that if you do get caught, the people who have caught you can call up the person who commissioned the test to verify that you should indeed be there. The get out of jail free card should contain the letters of the names of the people from your organisation who have been commissioned to do the test. It should contain the dates, the test window that you're going to perform the test during, and it should contain a very simple explanation of what you're doing there, so you can hand it to anyone, whether it's a security guard, a receptionist, or someone in the IT department, and they understand what you're doing in there. So once you got all your paperwork out of the way, you've identified who you're going to social engineer, the next step is your reconnaissance phase. So trying to gather as much information as you possibly can about your target organisation. So for that, you're going to look on search engines, you're going to look on social networking sites, which are absolutely superb for finding information about people. I really love LinkedIn, because you can build pretty much an entire org chart for the organisation that you're trying to social engineer. You can find relationships like who reports into who. Sometimes now with this new Tripit plugin, you can find out who's away on holidays within an organisation, which is really, really convenient. While they're away on holidays, you can call up and say, hey, this guy Bob who's away on holidays told me to do this while he's gone. Can you please help me? You're going to look on the company website and the annual reports, and as you're going through these documents, you're going to make a note of each and every name that you come across, because maybe during your social engineer you might want to social engineer this person, you might want to pretend to be this person, or you just might like to drop their name, particularly if you're finding details like who the CEO is or who very high level people within the organisation are that might be written on the company reports. Job ads, employee CVs and employee resumes contain a wealth of information, particularly when it is ads